Ladies and gentlemen, I'm David Taylor. I'm the president of the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association, and I'm especially pleased to welcome my great friend and indispensable ally, Jay Timmons. As was stated, the National Association of Manufacturers is the nation's largest industrial trade association, representing more than 14,000 manufacturers of all sizes, and the 12 million Americans employed in manufacturing. Its advocacy efforts support public policy that creates economic growth, expands opportunity, and spurs job creation. Through advocacy, litigation, and media campaigns, the NAM has helped to move manufacturing to the forefront of national news and debates. And today we're pleased to welcome NAM President and CEO Jay Timmons. In just over 5 years, Jay has transformed the NAM into an association of the future, or as one publication called it, a manufacturing advocacy giant. He has a wealth of experience working in public policy, having served as Chief of Staff to a Virginia governor and U.S. Senator, and also as Executive Director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. His commentary regularly appears in, among others, the Wall Street Journal and USA Today, and he's often a guest on CNBC and Fox News. Now, with an election on the horizon and the economy on voters' minds, Jay and the NAM are here at GlaxoSmithKline, Philadelphia, to offer a vision for the future. And we're excited to be a host of the 2016 State of Manufacturing Tour. Ladies and gentlemen, NAM President and CEO, Jay Timmons.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks so much for being here. It's great to be in this historic city, and it's, for me, a student of history and our political system, it's great to be in the birthplace of American democracy. And really what a privilege it is for me to speak with folks who are doing so much to help others across the country and around the world live longer, healthier, and more productive lives. It's an honor to share this event with Jack Bailey and David Taylor, and thank you both for welcoming us here to Pennsylvania on our tour. As you can see from the video, we've been engaged all around the country, spreading the message of manufacturing throughout the country. And I really appreciate all you do to help us advance manufacturing. And it was great to hear from Congressman Pat Meehan and hear his message of hope and opportunity and growth. You guys are lucky to have him. It's also great to see so many NAM members that are in attendance today, and I want to thank you for your commitment to our industry and our future, and especially our NAM board members who are here today, my bosses. So Julie Copeland, who's the president and CEO of Arbel, and Eric Norris, the president of Health and Nutrition at FMC. Eric's over here. And Quentin Roach, who's the chief procurement officer and senior vice president at Merck & Company. Also, a special shout out to my good friend Mark Scardufa, who's the Vice President of U.S. Government Relations and Public Affairs at Pfizer. And he's also the chair of the NAM's National Public Affairs Steering Committee. We've got several other key partners here. Fred Anton, who's the chairman of the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Gene Barr, who's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. And Michelle Sikirla, did I get that right? Sikirka, president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Michelle, thanks for being here too. So thank you all for your leadership and your presence. Now I'm here to share with you the state of manufacturing in the United States. Why manufacturing? Because the strength of manufacturing in America is responsible for the strength of our families and our communities. When manufacturing succeeds, our economy succeeds. That may sound strange to some, and it's a common misperception to think that manufacturing means things of the past, the gritty old factories, simple tools, and rudimentary machines. If that's the image the word manufacturing conjures in your mind, well, you obviously haven't been here, number one. But I also want to take the time to introduce to you modern manufacturing. Just a quick look at some of our member companies' work will show you that modern manufacturing really touches every aspect of our lives, from FMC Corporation's crop protection technologies that help put affordable food on our tables, to Campbell Soup's efforts to promote global nutrition, and Crown Holdings' contributions to sustainable food packaging, from GlaxoSmithKline's research and production of life-improving medicines and vaccines, to Air Products and chemicals, exciting developments in bioenergy and CO2 capture, from our homes where companies like Saint-Gobain and Armstrong World Industries are delivering attractive, long-lasting, sustainable, and innovative materials to construction, interiors, and so much more, to the vast new world of the Internet of Things, where everyday objects are now digitally interconnected by the web. First it was our phones, and then it was our thermostats, our watches, our cars. Soon it will be everything from our contact lens to our entire homes. TE Connectivity, for example, is automating and optimizing the systems that connect vehicles, infrastructure, and people in the public transportation sector. Meanwhile, Honeywell lets you control your home security and your energy management with the touch of a button from around the world. And in fact, it's one of my favorite things to do. Pull out my iPhone and lower the temperature in my house, and just imagine my kids saying, "Dad, it can be 1,000 miles away," and get to mess around with them. Well, that's the Internet of Things. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is modern manufacturing. By the year 2020, there will be 26 billion objects connected together by the Internet. Manufacturing is truly changing everything. And all of those things are changing our lives. That's why today, manufacturing in the United States is leading an innovation revolution. A revolution that will win us jobs and strengthen working families and restore our standing around the world. Here in Pennsylvania, manufacturers employ nearly 10% of non-farm workers, and they contribute nearly $80 billion to the state economy. $80 billion. Nationwide, we employ over 12 million men and women and contribute more than $2 trillion to our national economy. And get this important data point. For every $1 that is invested in manufacturing, another $1.40 is added to the economy. There's no other sector that has that kind of impact, that kind of power, that kind of multiplier effect. So you see, the state of manufacturing matters. It matters to the state of our nation. Every day across the country, manufacturers go to work, competing to win. New technologies, affordable energy, and world-leading productivity have given the United States its competitive advantage in the global marketplace. But you know, obstacles are still in the way to forging an economy that lives up to our people and to the potential that we can unleash. To be sure, unavoidable headwinds like global economic weakness and worldwide instability, well, they've roiled manufacturing here and abroad. And while this will be slow to change, our leaders right here in our own country have at this moment the power to fix other self-imposed barriers to opportunity and to success. They can fix the problems in Washington that imperil our promise. These barriers exist because Washington hasn't yet summoned the will to change them, and because we, the people, in many ways, haven't done enough to fight for manufacturing as essential to our future. Now, just as American Idol is finally entering its final season this year, it's also time to stop selecting political candidates based on how they sound, rather than what they can actually do for manufacturing and for our country. Of course, if you listen to the candidates that are out campaigning, they just left Iowa, they're headed this way now. joy for all of us. They say that they all support manufacturing, at least rhetorically. The same is true of our leaders in Congress and state capitals and among the general public. But you know, words are not enough. Creating the right climate for economic growth takes the right public policy. At the NAM, quite frankly, we want to make it easy. We're spelling out exactly the right policies that will empower manufacturers in order to compete and to win. Our competing to win agenda is a policy roadmap guided by 4 core values, which are also the foundational principles to the country, in the country that we all love. And the first of those is free enterprise. Market forces that drive innovation and growth faster and better than any system ever conceived in the history of mankind. The second of these is competitiveness, our ability to expand markets and succeed in the global economy. The third is individual liberty, the creativity and the entrepreneurship that is unleashed by protecting and advancing the basic freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights. And the fourth is equal opportunity, the shared belief that every single one of us, if given the chance, has the potential to contribute to the success of our companies, our communities, and our country. Every policy proposal in this document supports these principles. And our message is this: if a candidate wants to be a manufacturing president, if Congress wants to energize the manufacturing economy, if you want to be a manufacturing voter, well, this is the agenda. We zero in on 11 very distinct areas. We zero in on tax and trade and energy and environment, transportation and infrastructure, labor, immigration, workforce, healthcare, research, innovation and technology, and regulatory and legal reform. Now that's more topics than we have time for here today, so I'm going to focus just on 2 of those, starting appropriately with healthcare. It's an issue that's become so riven by political discord, we're losing sight of our end goal, giving workers and families affordable access to high-quality health care to keep them well. This is something the NAM cares deeply about. NAM members offer employee health insurance coverage at a higher rate than other industries. In fact, 97% of companies supply it. Now, part of the challenge is making sure we prescribe the right medicine for health care. Here at GlaxoSmithKline, you understand matching the invention to the patient. And when treatments rely on our own genes to spark the right immunological response, well, it doesn't really get more individualized than that. I love the replica of the DNA model here. That kind of says it all to me. That really brings it home. Personalized treatment is the trend in medicine. On the policy front, however, there's some movement in the opposite direction, away from the individually tailored and toward the one-size-fits-all. This poses a challenge. The better and less expensive way forward will be to minimize restrictions and increase flexibility. For example, we could encourage new models so employers can have a sustainable way to contribute to the cost of insuring employees and their families. We could promote options like private healthcare exchanges, self-insured plans, flexible reimbursement arrangements, direct primary care, and strengthened health savings accounts. New thinking in health coverage will take us a long way, but we won't reach our destination of affordable care until we tackle medical liability. Our legal system is one of the country's greatest problem areas, to be frank, in the medical field and beyond. Medical liability costs alone drain us of more than $55 billion annually, and our leaders cannot shy away from reform. It's also time to support the modernization of the approval process for medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and biologics, which would reduce costs and speed safe, innovative treatments from the laboratory to patients. This is part of the research, innovation, and technology plank of our agenda, which you will see in our document. Manufacturers account for more than 3/4 of private sector research and development. We've been awarded more patents than any other industry. To secure our competitiveness, we must respond with a policy environment designed to attract and retain investment and with strong protections of intellectual property. We need to be vigilant and push back on aggressive state legislatures that want to require pharmaceutical manufacturers to turn over and reveal highly sensitive operational information such as pricing on specific products, marketing costs, research investments, and funding streams that support new product development. It's a misguided effort that will sap innovation, and it's of great concern. And it will work its way to the federal level as well if states are successful. No manufacturer should have to provide an unprecedented view of proprietary operations of its most sensitive information. Manufacturers will not accept this, nor will we sit quietly. Intellectual property rights must also be a central issue in trade agreements. As we work to open new markets, we simply cannot allow our hard-won innovations to be appropriated by our competitors. And as we champion the Internet of Things, we'll need to modernize our communications laws to fit this new era and to find new ways for ensuring our cyber security. If we do these things, then manufacturers continue leading an innovation revolution that benefits our people, our economy, and the world. And ultimately, this is really what it's all about: empowering manufacturers to pioneer the future. So we also need to address those other important areas. That means eliminating trade barriers so our companies can reach the billions of customers outside of our borders, and addressing persistent infrastructure issues with our ports and waterways so we can efficiently transport products overseas. It means using every source of affordable, reliable energy with our abundance of diverse resources, with new technologies that were developed right here in Pennsylvania. The United States has the potential to chart an energy future that raises the standard of living for all. We're a nation of immigrants, so it's time to fix all parts of our broken immigration system to boost our economy and also to fulfill a moral obligation that we have as a nation. And it's time to reform our expensive and outdated legal system, regulatory system, and certainly our tax code, which are costing us in the form of lost jobs and opportunities. These and other priorities outlined in greater detail in our agenda are about helping real people build better lives, to offer the mom living in Pittsburgh a job to provide for her children today and her retirement tomorrow, to give the family in North Philly the chance to advance and improve their standard of living, to ensure the veteran coming home to Scranton can enjoy the freedom that she defended for all of us overseas, and to give communities all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and indeed across our great nation a foundation for growth and for hope for tomorrow. Throughout history, manufacturers have made our economy stronger by the people that we employ, the lives that we touch, and the products that we make. Today, building a stronger economy requires something else. It requires bringing the right leaders together to get the job done. You know, leading our great nation is about more than who can yell the loudest, or who can denigrate others the most, or who can express the least desire to work across ideological lines. No, a great leader appeals to our aspirations as a people. A great leader unites. He or she does not divide. That's why manufacturing and manufacturers are raising our collective voices, the more than 12 million voices in the manufacturing army, to speak out, to take a stand. And we need all of you to join us. Join us and support those who support real solutions and real leadership. You know, we're manufacturers. We make things. We make incredible, life-changing things. And now it's up to us to make a difference again for the future of our country and for the future of our world. Thank you all so much for being with us on our State of Manufacturing tour. It's great to be here in Philadelphia, and I look forward to the panel discussion that's just ahead.
All right. Jack, let me welcome you back to the stage, and Jay, if you would take a seat there, and we'll move here to questions and roundtable discussion in just a moment. I do want to give a special welcome to State Senator Larry Farnese, who's joined us today. We are actually in his district, so Senator, thank you for having us today. And let me start actually, Jack, with a baseline question for you. What are the benefits of pharmaceutical manufacturing here in the U.S.?
Well, first of all, I mean, compliments to Jay's talk. He touched on so many things that are so critical to where we are in the life sciences industry. Talks about the double helix that's sort of represented by our stairway here. That, with the mapping of the human genome, better understanding the biologic processes that literally are different for each and every one of us, we stand at an unprecedented scientific time right now. We're talking curing diseases. But that does take the right environment, and we'll talk later about it, I'm sure, some of the intellectual property, some of the pricing. But even if we get all that right, we've got to be able to manufacture. That's such the critical step in terms of producing that product that I said earlier is trusted by our end patient, our end consumer. And I think what we find here in the United States is we get a great workforce that's highly committed to being able to produce those products at the highest standards and be able to help us achieve that mission of connecting this unprecedented innovation to patients. So I think for us, the reason we have such a tremendous manufacturing footprint here across all three of our business lines, vaccines, pharmaceutical, and consumer health, is exactly for those reasons. Great workforce, highly committed, and able to consistently deliver high-quality products to our patients.
And the contributions of the life sciences and biotechnology, it's especially strong in southeastern Pennsylvania, and that's something that people might not be aware of, that actually the last time I saw stats that there are more life sciences and biotech jobs in the greater Philadelphia region than in Research Triangle, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's certainly, we talk biotech clusters, life science clusters, and this is one of them, and it's a tremendous opportunity. You've got wonderful universities of higher education that spur a lot of the innovation. You've got a growing number of life science companies that come up with a lot of that innovation that Jay references. And all that leads to opportunities to manufacture these products. So it is certainly one of the best areas in the country. It's one that's why we have such a long and outstanding presence here, both from a R&D standpoint, a manufacturing standpoint, and a commercial standpoint.
And so from the perspective, yes, Jay, please.
And I would just add in, you know, those of you who work here, you live it every day. But it's a secret that I think most Americans are unaware of, and that is how medical science is changing so rapidly. I can remember with great delight when probably 6 or 7 years ago, it's a little disgusting, but I spit into one of those bottles to take a DNA test, right? And I sent it off to Ancestry.com, and I got back, I didn't get back just information on me, and I think I did the 23andMe or whatever. Sure. I did that. So I found out all kinds of things about my own system, but I also found out about things from ancestors from eons ago and how that all came into forming the body that is my body. It is amazing what you guys are able to accomplish right now and how you can specifically zero in on things that might be impacting individuals. Because of that, because of the R&D that's gone into that, because of the processes involved, it's an expensive process. So it's pretty easy for some candidates just to, you know, to wail on that and say, we got to reduce costs and we got to control it from the government. Well, when you do that, you stifle innovation. You stifle the ability of companies like this to create those important new treatments that will allow us to make the world a much healthier, safer, and better place to be. So I commend you here in Pennsylvania, and I commend this region for your dedication to the life sciences, and I hope that we can send that message nationwide so that policymakers understand that they need to unleash the potential of organizations and companies like this.
And as a follow-up, Jay, could you talk about the medical device tax and how that is working directly against the positive trend that we just described?
So we worked pretty hard, and thank you for all your great work on that as well, David, to repeal the medical device tax that was imposed a few years ago as part of ACA. You know, look, everybody wants to see more people have access to health care. I mean, that is a universal goal. We want Americans, we want the people of the world to be healthier so they live better lives. But the medical device tax was simply a misguided addition to that legislation that impeded certain companies' ability to invest in new devices and research and development. And what you see is companies saying, you know what, it doesn't make sense to invest into manufacturing in the United States. We're going to look elsewhere. Well, we can afford to let that happen. I mean, we're the leader. We are the innovation leader of the world. I was really pleased to take a little detour. I was really pleased that Congress in December, finally, after 36 years, think about that, 36 years, they finally made permanent the research and development tax credit in this country. How vital is that to companies like yours, right? I mean, you can't plan unless you have that permanency. You can hope, you could hope that they'll come back and give it to you. But without permanency, we were sending a message to the rest of the world that we weren't really serious about being the world's innovation leader. What that one vote did is it sent a message that right here in America, we're not done inventing the future, that we are going to lead when it comes to research and development. I was so happy to see that. And then delaying the medical device tax for a few years, that's a good start, but we need to abolish that to get that albatross off the neck of those companies.
So Jay, what would you say is the #1 policy reform you'd like to see in Washington to free up manufacturing to grow?
So David, I hate that question. And here's why. You know, if you'd have given me that question 20 or 30 years ago, you could have prioritized, and you could have said, look, okay, this year we'll tackle this. Next year we'll tackle, this subject. Today, we're in a global economy. We're in a global economy where countries all around the world want to eat our lunch, and they're starting to nibble away. And we've got to understand we can't take our our status as an economic powerhouse for granted anymore. Our mantle of economic leadership is eroding. So today, it's not just about one thing or even two things. It's about all those things in that agenda that you have before you. It's about the need for our next president, whoever he or she is, to take that agenda, make it theirs, and create a blueprint for progress for manufacturing. All of those things are critical to manufacturing success in this country. And you know what? Other countries around the world have already adopted that blueprint. They're making the investments in infrastructure. They're cutting their tax rates to attract investment away from our shores and onto theirs. They're making their regulatory systems more sane and user-friendly. They are exploiting trade agreements around the world and getting access to other markets. Those are things that we have to do now, and we need Congress and the administration to work cooperatively to do that. I'm pleased that the Speaker of the House is having lunch today with the President of the United States. That's been 7 years coming. That is way too late, and probably too late for this administration and this Congress. We need to demand that the next Congress and the next administration work collaboratively and cooperatively to advance manufacturing in the United States for all of us.
Yeah, it isn't just one thing. It's like rebuilding the Phillies. You need hitting and pitching and fielding and the farm system, and it's all those things working together.
Somehow I knew you'd have a sports metaphor.
All right, Jack, question for you. How have you addressed workforce and talent management issues here at GSK?
Well, I think it's a never-ending challenge, right? Again, as our industry, as the healthcare system goes through this fundamental transformation, it requires new skills, et cetera. So I think for us, really being linked in both with vocational, for tech, for universities of higher learning, all of those channels are important. I think making sure we're trying to stay ahead of things, not getting stuck behind, i.e. being able to know what are those skills, capabilities that we need 3, 5, 10 years out are critical. And to Jay's presentation, it's changing rapidly, right? I mean, I'm astounded today what our researchers and everybody else are doing that just 5 or 10 years ago was radically different. But again, it just speaks to the speed of transformation. So I think having the right partners, being aware of the skills as they evolve, and never stopping the efforts to make sure you're pairing up to get the right workforce and talent necessary to, again, make this innovation come to life to benefit patients.
Hey, Jay, following up on that, why are manufacturers so interested in middle skill workforce development?
Well, to be frank, I think we are interested in workforce development all across the spectrum. There are so many jobs that go unfilled today at all levels and in all areas, whether they're plant jobs or headquarters jobs or administrative jobs. We're predicting that in just a few years, by the year 2025, there's going to be a need for 3.4 million jobs in manufacturing to replace those workers who are retiring and the new jobs that are being created. But we're also predicting that 2 million of those jobs will go unfilled because we don't have the skill set necessary to be able to hire the right folks. So we're working, our Manufacturing Institute, you guys are doing a tremendous job with Dream It, Do It here in Pennsylvania. Our Manufacturing Institute at the NAM is working to get young people excited about a career in manufacturing. So we're getting primary and secondary students exposed to modern manufacturing through exposure at their schools, but also bringing them to Manufacturing Day events on the first Friday of every October. We're working with returning veterans to get them into the manufacturing workforce because many of them already have the skill sets necessary. We're working with community colleges to make sure that they're partnering with manufacturers of their area to find, to align their curriculum to be able to provide the certifications that are necessary. But there's a lot more that we need to do in this area, and I think the perception of manufacturing is changing. You walk into a building like this, and all of a sudden your perception changes automatically. But there's a lot of folks out there who still haven't gotten the word about modern manufacturing, and it's not just students. Oftentimes it's their parents, and so we're trying to reach them as well to really inspire them about what the future of manufacturing is all about.
So Jack, let me ask you, what can policymakers do to make the pharmaceutical industry even stronger here in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, I love NAM's very comprehensive, essentially blueprint for how we continue to create an environment to make this country, to make manufacturing more competitive. We agree with all of it. That's why we've had such a long-standing partnership. But the couple I would really highlight that we need to prioritize, first and foremost, our industry is built on really two pillars: intellectual property and pricing, free market pricing. On intellectual property, to Jay's presentation, right now some of the trade agreements, we are concerned that they don't appropriately recognize and reward that intellectual property. It takes on average about $2.6 billion and 10 to 12 years to develop a new commercialized molecule. So if that protection in terms of being able to recoup that investment erodes dramatically, you won't get the investment. It's that simple. So intellectual property, especially as we head into some of these trade agreements like TPP that in some cases want to erode some of the patent protections that have been agreed upon and some of the intellectual property conditions necessary to continue to incentivize and reward innovation would be at the top. I think second is on that pillar of pricing, as you heard also. I mean, there's a real focus on just cost rather than a broader dialogue about how the healthcare system has to do a better job getting better value, i.e. healthier patients, for every dollar spent, right? It's a very siloed industry. It's an industry, when I say healthcare writ large, tends to be siloed and still tends to be on some models that frankly predated certainly a lot of the scientific potential that's unfolded over the last 10 to 15 years since we've started to map the human genome and understand better the biological processes. That is changing every dynamic of healthcare and how we connect this innovation to patients. So I think for us, having the right pricing environment and the right intellectual property protections are critical. The final one I would say is on a lot of the legal liability environment. Again, it adds enormous cost to how we operate. I think it touches obviously not only healthcare but every industry, and to Jay's earlier point, we really need to look at some significant reform as it relates to liability.
Yeah, And that's a battle that we have to fight and win in Harrisburg. I mean, certainly there are things at the federal level, but they don't call them Philadelphia lawyers for nothing. That lawsuit abuse is one of the big challenges here in Pennsylvania, and especially in the Southeast.
And David, you know, let me just say on TPP, Jack is exactly right. Our negotiators did not do well when it came to intellectual property protections for pharmaceuticals and biologics. That agreement is one, in all candor, we are supporting as the NAM for very broad reasons, its impact on the manufacturing economy writ large. But the pharmaceutical industry, I think you are stepping up, rightly so, to talk about the fact that you were, in some cases, left behind. Our laws here are very strong when it comes to intellectual property protections, and our negotiators did not appropriately prioritize that in these agreements. We're working with Senator Hatch and some others to see if there are some side agreements that can strengthen those protections in this agreement, because it is vital to success in the United States. So thank you for your leadership on that. I think it's extraordinarily important, not just for pharmaceuticals and biologics, but for manufacturing overall. It sets a precedent that I think is very harmful.
So Jay, in your remarks, you used the term innovation revolution. And just want to give you the chance to expand on that a little bit. What does innovation revolution mean to you? And what do you think it means for kids growing up here in Pennsylvania, across the country, for their futures?
You know, I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-month-old. And I so wish I could imagine their future. I so wish I could understand what they will, what their everyday lives will be like when they're my ripe old age. But it's impossible. The speed of change, the speed by which we have to adapt in order to compete and win, is continuing to accelerate. I would not have predicted 5 years ago and would not have seen the Internet of Things and what it's doing, Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, whatever you want to call it. The fact that technology is infused basically into every single device that we touch or that touches our lives has the potential to completely revolutionize the way we live our lives. We have a company in our membership, it's one that I love to call out because they're innovation leaders, and they were one of the first to really understand the importance of the Internet of Things. It's called Big Ass Fans. It's now Big Ass Solutions. And they have really revolutionized the fan industry. You know, you think about a fan in your living room. Well, now, and I've got these in my home, you walk into a room, it senses you, it knows what you like as far as speed of the air and the ambient temperature, and it sets itself to you, to your personalized profile. That's just a glimpse at what we're going to see. You know, I'm looking at you. You wear glasses. What if you had contacts, and what if your contacts were adjusting themselves to meet your, what your brain needs for input and output? All of these things are the art of the possible and the art of the future, and I can't wait to see what it is. And I can tell you one thing. It's manufacturers, again, it's manufacturers that are going to lead the way to this new reality and this new world. And if we don't have the right policies in Washington, if we don't have the right policies at the state level, manufacturers are going to be constrained in how they invent that future. And I don't want that to happen. I want all those possibilities to open up for our children and our grandchildren and future generations who we'll never meet. And we can only do that by setting the right policy agenda today in Washington and our state capitals.
Well, amen to all of that. And this actually brings us to the end of the time that we have, but I just wanted to give a few concluding thoughts. As has been so amply described here, manufacturing is the engine that drives our economy. Manufacturing is the sector that adds the most value. It has the strongest multiplier effect on job creation. And so for here in the Commonwealth, those 500,000 employees on the plant floor and in direct supervision, their manufacturing activity not only generates the almost $80 billion worth of value added year over year here in Pennsylvania, that activity on the plant floor also sustains millions of additional jobs in supply chains, distribution networks, vendors of industrial services. These are the kinds of jobs that uphold the quality of life for our citizens and our communities all across the Commonwealth and all across America. So with our friends at the National Association of Manufacturers, with exemplary manufacturing employers like GSK, that the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association is very proud to join in that fight with advocating for, defending, and hopefully advancing manufacturing in the United States. Thank you all very much for being here today.
It's a real pleasure to meet you. Appreciate everything you're doing, and we look forward to being here.